Moore v. Harper. Let's take you live now, though, back to the Faith and Freedom Conference. It is keynote speaker Florida Governor Ron DeSantis now approaching the podium. We'll listen in to his comments now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Are you ready to work together so that we can send Joe Biden back to his basement in Delaware where he belongs? I'm so happy to be here. We see the problems in this country. You see the economy where you pay more for daily necessities like groceries. Meanwhile, the people in this town, with all the spending, the debt, and the printing that's been done, they're living high on the hog. You see a southern border that's wide open. You see illegal aliens pouring in and massive amounts of deadly narcotics coming in. You see cities that have been overrun with crime, places that have been hollowed out like San Francisco. And we see a federal government whose agencies have been weaponized against their fellow Americans, including people of faith. And underlying all that is the fact that the left is lighting the fire of a cultural revolution all across this land. The fire smolders in our schools. It smolders in corporate boardrooms. It smolders in the halls of government. We are told that we must accept that men can get pregnant. We are told to celebrate a swimmer who swam for 3 years on the men's team and then switches to the women's team and somehow is named the women's champion. We are told to sit idly by as they try to rewrite and distort our history and demean the founders of this nation. We have had to watch as a football coach had to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court just to get his job back for the, quote, crime of saying prayers at the midfield after football games. And, of course, we see professional sports teams openly elevating groups who overtly demean people of faith. Let's just be very clear about this. We did not start this fire. But as President of the United States, I will lead the effort to extinguish the fire of cultural Marxism once and for all across this country. We will restore sanity to this nation. We will return normalcy to our communities, and we will reinstate integrity across institutions. This is a time for clarity. This is a time to stand for truth. This is a time to proudly put on the full armor of God. Now, what's called for right now is leadership. And leadership means that you know what's the right thing to do. You have your sights fixated on what true north is. You don't let people divert you off course, the media, the polls, none of that. You follow through and you get things done. And I'm happy to say that's exactly what we've done in Florida. That's exactly what we will do as president. When the world went mad during COVID, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, the state of Florida stood as a citadel of freedom and a refuge of sanity for citizens all across this country. We refuse to let our state descend into some type of Faucian dystopia where people's freedoms were curtailed and their livelihoods were destroyed. No, we protected the right of people to worship in church. We protected people's freedom, their ability to work, businesses to operate, and made sure our kids could be in school every single day in person. In short, we chose freedom over Fauciism, and we are better off for having done so. We also lead in standing up for the protection of our children. And it's sad to say, but in the cultural moment we find ourselves in, our children are being targeted for indoctrination in schools and programming, everything under the sun. In the state of Florida, when we saw that happening, when people wanted to put gender ideology in the schools, we drew a line in the sand and said, no, not on our watch. We are going to stand with the rights of parents. It is inappropriate for a teacher to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body or that their gender is a choice. And so we made sure to enact that in the law. Now, there are a lot of people in Florida that love that we did that. The parents loved it, regardless of party, because they want to focus school on the basics. They don't want schools to be tools of indoctrination. The left didn't like what we did. The media didn't like what we did. And there happened to be a company you may have heard of in Central Florida that didn't like what we did, named Disney. And people said, you know, they're so powerful when they lean in on an issue in Florida, they always get their way. There's no way that the governor is going to be able to withstand that. And so this parents' rights bill is going to end up crashing and burning. And, you know, I know that they ran things in Florida for a long time, but all I can say is we run the state of Florida. We don't subcontract out to woke corporations in Burbank, California. So here we stand. And we signed the legislation. And we also ensured that if they're getting legacy benefits where they had their own government, that was in the 60s, I didn't do that, they were treated better than any person or company in the entire state of Florida, and yet they were signing up for the sexualization of children. Not just with this bill, but they've admitted it in their own programming. And so as a father of three, that's not something that sits well with me. So we had to make the decision to say, you know, we are not going to put you on a pedestal in this state. And so we ended Disney's self-governing status in the state of Florida. And I know, and the sad thing is, no, I know, the sad thing is a lot of these Republicans are siding with Disney, and they're attacking me. And here's what I will say. We oppose the sexualization of children. We will do battle with anybody who seeks to rob our children of their innocence. And on those principles, there will be no compromise. We will fight the woke corporations. And what it all comes down to at the end of the day is we believe that parents have the right to direct the education and upbringing of their children. And we've enacted legislation to that effect. We've even empowered parents with the ability to know what curriculum is being used in their kids' school and to blow the whistle when things are inappropriate. And here's what they found. Unfortunately, and I think Florida is probably way better than a lot of other states, but even in Florida, you know, they have found pornography in the schools. So the media will say if you get the pornography out, that's somehow a book ban, which is a total hoax. People can buy, adults can buy books, but you have to choose what's appropriate to be in a school, what's appropriate for a classroom. You're making a decision, somebody's trying to make a decision to use tax dollars to put pornographic materials, and that's wrong. We did an event to highlight this. We called it Exposing the Book Ban Hoax, but before I talked, before the parents came up, we just played on the video screen exactly what the parents had objected to. The news stations covering our press conference had to cut their feed because they said it was too graphic to air. Well, if it's too graphic for the 6 o'clock news, how is it okay for a 10-year-old school child? And I know we see debates right now about the ability of women to compete fairly in sports, and people like Riley Gaines are standing up for doing what's right, and I appreciate all that. But in Florida, we took care of this years ago. We signed legislation that says every girl, every women athlete in the state of Florida has the right to compete with fairness and with integrity in their sports. And as the father of two daughters, I want my daughters to be able to participate with fairness and integrity. And yes, when you have someone swim on the men's team for 3 years and switch to the women's team and somehow win the championship, that took a championship away from a woman swimmer. That is taking opportunities away from girls. No question about that. But even more than that, when the NCAA crowns that swimmer the women's champion, they're not only taking away opportunities for other women athletes, they are asking us to be complicit in a fraud. And that I refuse to do. We have also taken action to prohibit puberty blockers and gender surgeries in the state of Florida for minors. It is mutilation. It is wrong, and it has no place in a free society. We're proud that we've been able to and will continue to stand for religious liberty. And yes, we had to do that during COVID when you had local governments trying to crack down on people that wanted to attend church. We filed an executive order saying churches are essential activity and have a right to operate. We've also taken action to ensure that athletes have the right and sports teams have a right to say prayers before games, and also to have a mandatory moment of silence in our schools so that students can pray before they start the school day. My government in Florida has enlisted the faith community into everything we do. When we work to help less fortunate people, and my wife has a great program called Hope Florida, we know that just giving somebody a check from a bureaucracy is not going to ultimately change the trajectory of their lives. So what have we done? We've created something called the Care Portal, where people in need can say what they need, but then groups in the community, businesses, nonprofit, and yes, our churches and synagogues are able to connect. They can help the people, and guess what? Once they are in the hands of people who care, once they have an ability to not just receive statecraft but soulcraft, we never see them come to the government office again for help. They are on the road to self-sufficiency. So we've embraced the faith community, and we know that it works to embrace the faith community. We've also empowered parents to be able to send their kid to the school of their choice, including religious schools. You have universal school choice in the state of Florida, the largest expansion of school choice in American history. We were proud to be able to get that done. We also said when I ran for governor that I would be the most pro-Israel governor in the country, and we have delivered on that promise. We stand with the state of Israel. We have fought companies who have tried to stigmatize Israel through things like BDS, and we've put them on our dink list, and we've gotten companies like Airbnb to back down, because we understand places like Judea and Samaria are historical, biblical Jewish lands. They are not occupied territory. It is disputed territory, but those have a strong connection to the Jewish people going back thousands and thousands of years, and all you have to do is open up your Bible and start reading to see that. So as president, we will ensure that we have an ironclad Israel-U.S. relationship. They are our ally, and we need to act like it. We also understand the importance of leading on the courts. When I became governor of Florida, our state Supreme Court in Florida was perhaps the most liberal Supreme Court anywhere in the United States. Well, we've now been able to make 7 appointments to that court, and Florida now has the most conservative Supreme Court anywhere in these United States, and we got more work to do. As president, I will nominate and appoint justices to the Supreme Court in the mold of Justices Clarence Thomas and Justice Samuel Alito. We will also stand and defend them against scurrilous attacks that you're seeing in the media and by left-wing groups. The left knows they have lost control of the court, and they don't like it. If they're able to sweep in 24, they're going to pack the U.S. Supreme Court with liberal justices. You may have 13 people on the Supreme Court after they get done with it, and they will install a liberal majority. So they're hard at this effort of trying to lay the groundwork for that by delegitimizing our great conservative justices. And let me just say, I stand with Justice Thomas, I stand with Justice Alito in the face of these attacks. They are wrong. We have also delivered in Florida on promoting a culture of life. And that means signing the heartbeat bill into law that protects unborn children when there's a detectable heartbeat. It was the right thing to do. Don't let anyone tell you it wasn't. But we understand that being pro-life starts there, but it doesn't end there. In the state of Florida, we've enacted family-friendly policies. We now have the elimination of all sales tax on all baby items. Diapers, wipes, cribs, strollers, clothes, you name it, that's in the bag. Now, my wife and I have a 6, 5, and a 3-year-old. When I signed this into law recently, I had a big smile on my face. I came home, and she deadpanned to me, because our kids are out of diapers now, and she said, "Why didn't you do this 4 years ago?" Well, you know, we did a lot over these 4 years, but we're really proud of that, and we're proud of all the support that we've offered for foster care, for adoptions, and for single moms. It's important that we walk the walk and just not talk the talk when it comes to right to life. So here's, I think, where we find ourselves. You need the leadership, because for far too long, we've had a lot of Republicans that get into office, and they're almost like potted plants. They don't want to lead. They want to follow polls, have their finger in the wind. They do not want to take on fights that are going to lead to the media attacking them or the left attacking them. And so what they end up doing is, yeah, you know, they'll do a tax cut here, something there, but they tend to defer to the media. They defer to corporations. And what that means in this day and age is that the left will win, because they're going on all fronts. They're pushing their agenda through the schools. They're pushing their agenda through corporate America. They're pushing their agenda through an unaccountable bureaucracy. If all you say you're going to do is sit there and only deal with taxes and certain spending issues, then you're giving away the game. So you need full spectrum leadership. You need to understand that the threats to freedom are not limited to what happens in an election or even in the halls of government, but it extends far broader than that. We understand that in Florida, and that's why we've become the free state of Florida, because we've protected this freedom all across the board. We need to get busy with this in Washington, D.C. As president, we will reverse Biden's disastrous economic policies. We're going to stop spending this country into oblivion. The state of Florida, we have millions of more people than New York State does now, and our budget is half the size of New York State. When there's excessive spending, I veto it. Our debt is the second lowest per capita in the country. Don't tell me it can't be done. We're not destined to plunge this country into debt-ridden destitution, and so we need a new way of thinking. We also need to unleash all of our domestic energy here in this country. We have resources. Don't force people into electric cars. Don't force them to use windmills. Let's use what we have. It's better for your pocketbook, but it's also better for our national security. And I will finally be the president to bring the issue of our open southern border to a conclusion. I've heard about this since I've been an adult. For decades, we've complained about the open border. We've complained about everything that's happening. Now is the time to act. On day one, we declare a national emergency. We mobilize all assets, including the military. Yes, we build a border wall, but we stop the invasion, and we hold the drug cartels accountable for the carnage that they are causing in this country.
Been listening to Governor Ron DeSantis speaking at